very quickly, and then we will turn to our guest speaker. So I am sharing my screen now. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see this. So the title of the presentations that we've been doing has almost paid homage to Stan Lee. And it's about the ultimate speech formula of superheroes and themes of humanity. And some people are probably wondering, what exactly does that mean? And who exactly is Stan Lee? So just before I go into that, very quickly, just want to share the session agenda. We've done our introductions. We're going to go into our training overview, and we'll talk a little, we'll have our Q&A and a wrap up. So this is just kind of an idea of what the agenda flow will be for the sessions. But this Stan Lee I'm referencing is the legendary co-creator of Marvel Comics. And while I don't actually read the comics, I'm a fan of the Marvel movie franchise, which has been pouring in millions and millions of dollars. If you talk about all of these characters, from Black Panther to the new one released this year, Captain Marvel, Thor, Iron Man, the Avengers, he has created or co-created quite a set of colorful characters. And the Marvel movie franchise is very interesting for me because it's about reinvention, because there was a time comics were relevant and then they were irrelevant, and now they are becoming more and more important in our society today. And I think part of that is due to the fact that the portrayal of the characters is so fascinating. And when we think of superheroes, they're not necessarily our traditional superheroes. A lot of them have personal conflict that they have to deal with. But what is so interesting is that they all come to this point where they realize that they're doing something or fighting for something or representing something that's bigger than themselves. So it endears us to them. Even their villains are interesting, and you can't necessarily say it's a villain that you don't like or like, because they're so complex and complicated. And somehow as an audience, we're drawn to them. I love that this franchise also knows how to take themes that are serious, but do it with a wink or a nod. In other words, it doesn't allow you to just drown in sorrow as they go through these themes, but they take you on a journey where you can embrace and connect with what is happening without feeling depressed about the situation, but rather hopeful. And so they've done themes like what happens when we abandon children, but they've shown that as a society, there's still hope of what we can do to recover. And that was in Black Panther. They talk about what happens when we don't deal or process grief properly, and what happens when we allow hate to consume us, and how it builds character and storylines. But what is interesting about Marvel Comics is that they're timeless. They cross all ages, races, nationalities, and they're to the point where some of these movies have actually been inspiration for people. And anybody who's watched Black Panther would know that the lead up for that was such excitement. But even now, there are terms that people use like Wakanda forever, and it almost seems to unite people. So that is the beauty of Marvel comics and movies. And you'll be thinking to yourself, well, what does that have to do with storytelling? What does that have to do with doing a speech or presenting your story? There are a lot of similarities, because when we talk about how we present ourselves, the idea is that we're sharing something that as it comes across to our audience, there's a connection and they feel what it is that we want to share. It crosses time, it crosses all boundaries. It doesn't matter who's listening in our audience, because we're talking about something that's inherently human. Everybody can feel that and they can understand that situation. And that's the beauty of people who are able to inspire, to motivate, and to transform us when when we listen to their speeches, but also what we in some measure can do when we also share our story. So we looked at previous sessions, and we reached Najaha with our first session, and we talked about the storyteller and the fact that some, when we look at superheroes, we think, well, some people have this inherent natural talent. while others, their gift is seemingly accidental in their journey because it wasn't something that they set out to explore or to do. They were gently pushed into it, like some of us who've been gently asked to participate in speech contests. And interestingly enough, both Mark and Vivek shared that they were asked to represent their clubs, and it started one of the most, I guess, if you look at their journey, it's kind of the most powerful kind of journey because they didn't anticipate that this is where it would take them or where they would end up or the impact that they would have on other people's lives. And one of the messages that Vivek left was obviously that her purpose was to be an advocate for a cause that was bigger than herself. Once we finished that first session, we then had Mark Brown, the 1995 world champion, and Mark is a gem. Of course, we mentioned that he has contacts and roots in Jamaica, but Mark talked about the storytelling element and how we can build stories that are simple, that are true. And in fact, he gave us another formula: authenticity plus vulnerability is equal to credibility. And for those of us who were in that session, we were taking copious notes. And the other thing that he shared was that one person's mundane is another person's magnificent. And so we talked about the fact that we all have stories that we can share and that can make a difference and whose message can be bigger than ourselves. So that is just a snapshot of the two sessions that we had before. But when we look at today's session, which is our grand finale, we talk about elements of how we present, whether it's our stage, when we talk about movement and the importance of testing the stage, when we talk about our AV and props, we look at our dress code, and then this part is going to be very important because for the Caribbean, this is the first time that this component has been introduced, and that is video. Because traditionally we've been accustomed to having a live audience, but now we will also be trying to connect through video as well, because that is how our district winners' speech will be assessed. So just a few tips for these particular elements, because our guest speaker is an expert to be able to share on so much more on this. But coming from my experience last year in the semifinals, one of the things that I learned, and it is for anybody, this isn't just if you are a speech contestant, but anybody who is speaking, especially depending on where you're speaking, get familiar with the speaking area, walk the stage, see if you can access the room beforehand, and practice your movement on the stage, because as much practice as you can get is helpful for you to keep you grounded and settled and a little more prepared for the big day. Your movement should be purposeful, and sometimes simple is good. It's not just over exaggeration, but it has to be in line with what it is you're sharing with your audience. And we don't want movement that is distracting, because sometimes when we overdo it, we can actually get to a point where we've exerted ourselves so much. I've heard speakers run out of breath. So think about the fact that whatever it is you're doing with your facial expressions and your body language, it has to be in sync with your message. And it doesn't always have to be over exaggerated, but purposeful. And we had the privilege, at least some of us had the privilege of seeing the World Championship in 2018 Chicago, and I have to tell you, this is why I'm also so excited to have Ramona with us, because if there's somebody who knew how to be purposeful on stage, that was Ramona. It really was something to see you, Ramona, and what you were able to do on the stage and work the stage and connect with your audience. If you're using props, again, simple and effective. It has to be in line with your purpose. And it was interesting because as I was preparing last year, one of my questions was, what about the size of your prop? Because I felt like, you know, a prop had to be a large prop. But I learned that some of the world champions, when we look at their speeches, some of the props were very small, but they were effective because of what they did for the message that the speaker was sharing. You also need to be very, very, very careful as you test the mic, because one of the things that I learned is that as they prep you for the semifinals, The mic check, they wanted to hear your loudest sound, and they also wanted to hear your softest sound. And you don't have to use your entire speech. You don't even have to use your speech or elements of your speech, but you have to be mindful of how you will come across on that mic when you test it for your loudest sound and your softest sound, because you don't want to overpower the mic, but you don't also want to be too soft that anybody can't hear you, even with the mic. You also have to bear in mind that your body movements may be something that you need to test if it could interfere with your mic. And what was interesting in the semifinals is that we had a speaker who was imitating the heartbeat, and she tested that beforehand on the mic. It came across very dramatic in the contest and extremely effective, but she had to test that because that is something that you don't want to go wrong in the actual competition. And again, these are tips that are helpful for you in any type of speaking circumstance. So don't just think of this as speech contest. Finally, think of the dress code. And this has to be appropriate to fit your mic as well, especially with lapel mics. Ladies, be careful with your shoes on stage. I learned that firsthand even at district, where I had on a pair of heels and I realized they were not going to work with the stage. You also have to be aware of, you know, the sound that your shoes will make on the stage and whether that's distracting or not. You also have to, for all of us, look at what we're presenting and wearing on stage, because we have to be mindful of our backdrop and also mindful of how we appear on camera and how that's reflected. And then the final thing is, as we talk about camera connection, I think that from now on, for all of us, we need to start practicing, if we aren't doing that already, looking at ourselves on camera, filming, videoing ourselves, having people video us, because we are going to have to learn what it is to manipulate or manage a stage, knowing that there will be a camera on us, and also so that we understand when is it appropriate to make eye connection, so that it seems like we're connecting with our audience who is watching us on video. And so those are just some thoughts as we get through to the grand finale, because I know some clubs are now doing their final speech contest. Some, I know the Cayman Islands is getting ready for the national speech contest. And of course, in May is our big contest in Bonaire. And for those of you who are competing or who hope to be competing, I wish you all the best and soak in as much of this information as possible, because this is going to be beneficial for you. And for those of you who are not competing, don't dismiss it. I'm very glad that you're here, because the experience of the information shared in these sessions will help you with your speeches regardless. And as Mark said in the last session, it's the beginning of journeys and we don't know where it will take us. So that is enough from me, because I know that you all have all signed in specifically to hear our guest speaker. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce, and I'm not sure what's happening with my screen, I'm so sorry, our 2018 World Champion, Ramona J Smith. And I want to say something here, because when Fabiola and I had the opportunity to speak beforehand with Ramona, we were over the moon to be actually speaking with you, Ramona. We were so excited and ecstatic, and I can go on and on. But you started a conversation by blessing us. And I have to tell you, that blew me away. Oh, I did not expect that. And so we are really honored to have you with us. Your first appearance with the Caribbean District 81. And I want everybody to make sure that Ramona can see you all and can see you waving and your smiles and your expressions of joy to be here, because believe you me, Ramona, when they knew you were coming, the emails, the social chatter was fast and furious, because people were so enthused to have us, to have you here. And we are thankful because you mentioned you're traveling again tomorrow, and we know that this is a precious time that you're spending with us, and we're honored to have you. So ladies, gentlemen Toastmasters from all over the region and the world, please let Ramona see your hands clapping, waving in the air, because we are so happy to welcome you to our session. And Ramona, I'd like to open it up to you. So please feel free, folks, as you see in the chat, to send in your questions or comments. Ramona will try to answer them as we finish. So Ramona, over to you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so sorry that I'm in the car, but I have a busy couple of days ahead, and I just want to make sure I don't neglect any of my obligations. So I apologize that I'm in a car right now, but I'm here with you, and you have all of my attention and all of my heart, and I am genuinely happy to be here with you all. I would like to first say that I am so sad that I have not gotten an invitation from the Caribbean, because I would love to be relaxing on the beach right now with my melanated brothers and sisters, honestly.
Listen, it's not too late. It's not too late. I'm just saying it's not too late.
I'm looking forward to visiting the Caribbean. I've not been yet, and I would love to talk to you guys in person and meet you all and hug you and shake your hand and get a little more personal and make a more personal connection. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in person very soon. As I mentioned, I'm on my way to Saudi Arabia tomorrow after I have a 4-session conference with Synchrony Financial in Canton, Ohio. And I just flew in here from Houston yesterday. So as you can imagine, my schedule is busy, but I love it. This is what I've been praying for. This is what I've always wanted to do with my life. Even before Toastmasters, I've known that I wanted to be a public speaker since I was 19. And even though that was last year, I've wanted to know that even before I joined Toastmasters, I knew that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And so now I have this amazing platform, and I did 2 world tours over in the Middle East, and it's just been phenomenal. So I am genuinely happy to be here with you all this evening. And I'm just going to share a little bit about my journey and try to give you guys some value as far as what I did and things that I've learned throughout my journey. As you know from the speech, I tried to become the world champion in 2015, and then I tried again in 2016, and I failed both times. In 2015, it was my first time competing, and I kept winning. So I guess you could call it beginner's luck, maybe. I'm not really sure, but I kept winning. And with each win, my ego continued to grow. When I won at the club level, I said to myself, wow, this is my first time competing and I won. I must be awesome. And then I got and then I made it to the area level, and I'm like, oh, wow, look at me beating all these people who've been in Toastmasters for years. Ha, 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 I must be great. And then I went to the division level, and as you can imagine, to continue to rise to these different levels as a first timer, I was, to sum it up in slang terms, I was feeling myself. And then when I got to the district level, my ego was so huge that I knew that I was going to win. And that year, we all know that the international convention was in Vegas. It was in Vegas that year. And whenever you win, well, in previous years, I know it's going to be different this year, but in previous years, whenever you win, you get a ticket at the district level. You get a ticket to the semifinals. And so even before I competed at the district level, I had already packed my bags to go to Vegas because I was that confident in my own arrogance that I would win the contest. And so I competed at the district level, and I took 3rd place. And I wrapped my whole life in that year. I wrapped my whole existence in that title. I wrapped my whole being in becoming the next world champion of public speaking. And when I didn't get it, I was devastated, because I was that person that year. I'm the 2015 world champion of public speaking. I know I am. I'm good. It's my first time, and I made it to the district level. Just just bragging and just full of myself. And it was straight ego. And then I actually went to the World Championship of Public Speaking in Vegas so I could see what it was like, so I can get a feel of it, so I can visualize what it looks like. And I saw how amazing the speakers were. And I saw how serious the fans of Toastmasters were. I mean, people were rushing in when they opened the doors for the contest. People were flooding in. People were saving rows and rows of seats for their districts and their friends. And I realized how serious it was. And in 2016, I kind of went in with the same attitude. I'm going to win this year. I know I'm good. I saw what these amazing speeches look like in Vegas, and I know I'm going to win. I could be just like Muhammad Khatani. And in 2016, I didn't even get past the club level. And that's because I had that same attitude and that same mentality of me, me, me. I want the trophy. It's all about me. What can I gain from it? Me, me, me. And so naturally, after we lose and after we fail and after we've told people that we're competing and we've made it to these high levels and then we don't reach our goal, we step back. We'll step back from competing. We'll step back from Toastmasters just because of the humiliation and because it crushed our ego. So I stepped back for almost 2 years. And when I rejoined in Houston, and I believe it was January of 2018, I went in with a completely different mentality. I went in with the attitude of learn, grow, and have fun, because Toastmasters is more than just public speaking. And I think that is a misconception that is worldwide, that public speaking and Toastmasters are synonymous. And public speaking is just a small percentage of the benefits of being a Toastmaster, of being in Toastmasters International. You become a better leader. You become a more effective communicator. You become a more professional in general. You're able to lead people. You're able to step up in roles. You're able to adjust to change. It's amazing. So I personally feel like it's more about leadership and becoming a more effective communicator. Now you'll gain some public speaking skills, but not all about public speaking, and that's the misconception. And so when I changed my attitude in Houston to just learn, grow, and have fun, I genuinely joined the speech contest in order to sharpen my skills, because we all know that iron sharpens iron. And so when I'm competing against someone who's been doing this for 20 or 30 years, they're going to be on fire and great things that they do, and the subtleties in their speaking, I'll pick up from. And I genuinely joined the speech contest in 2018 in order to learn, grow, and have fun. And that's exactly what I did at each level. I practiced, of course, I practiced my speech, and I practiced my choreography, and I got feedback and everything, but it was never about the trophy. And I feel like that's why I won finally in 2018, because I forgot about the trophy. I forgot about the title. At every single stage, I genuinely learned to enjoy the moment and live in the present moment. And I feel like that was the difference, because when I really wanted it and it was consuming my whole entire life, that's when I didn't get it. But when I forgot about it and really just genuinely was present in the moment, and I didn't care about competing, I was just there to learn, grow, and have fun, that's how I won. And so that's just a little bit of my story. And so to all of you who are out there, and I know you've heard this from probably Week and Mark Brown, if you are in it for just the trophy, good luck to you. Good luck to you. And if you're hearing this for the third time, then that means you need to hear it.
Yes.
If you're in it for the trophy, good luck to you. Good luck to you. Because if that's all you want, then once you get it, then what? Once you get that trophy, then what? It's like, okay, I got this trophy. Yay, I reached my goal. But now you have hundreds of thousands of people who are looking to you for speaking tips and for advice and for a smile or an encouraging word. But if you did this whole process and you went through all these different levels for yourself, then when it comes to other people, are you going to be able to give them what they need? Are you pouring from an empty cup? Okay, so if you want this title, just know that there are certain responsibilities and obligations that you don't necessarily have to take, but it's expected of you.
Mm-hmm.
Expected of you to travel the world and to speak to people who want to hear from you. It's expected for you to do video calls and video chats. It's expected to return newsletters and emails and Facebook messages and Instagram messages and Twitter and Snapchat and LinkedIn. That's expected of you. Do you have to? No way. But are you up for that challenge? Are you ready to be on a global scale? This is international. It's not just where you're from. It's countries all over the world, 143 countries who are going to be reaching out to you and looking up to you for the next 12 months in August. Mm-hmm. If that's not something that you want to do, and if you're just doing this for you, good luck to you. Good luck to you. But if you genuinely want to help others and you genuinely have a passion for speaking and you genuinely want to spread your gift and your energy and your knowledge with the world, then I'll share with you a little bit about my stage presence and what I did. And I'll share with you a little bit about my dress code. And I'll share with you about a few of the little things, because it's always the little things. Mm-hmm. As Toastmasters, we get it. You know you have 7.5 minutes. You know you have to make a connection. You know you have to inspire the audience. You have to have that call to action. You know you have to have a phrase that pays. These are things that you already know. But sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference. Because on that stage in August, there were 10 amazing speakers. Everybody was awesome. Like, everybody was amazing. Yeah. But what was it about Ramona J Smith that stood out? Let's talk about using the stage, because a lot of people say that that's kind of what put me over the top, because I used the whole entire stage. And if you've never been to the convention before, that stage is huge.
Yes, it is.
It is probably the biggest stage I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how many feet it is. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. If I could guesstimate, I don't know. I would say maybe 50 to 100. It's huge. Mm-hmm. But I chose to use the entire stage with my 3 different speaking points. And I was watching Mark Brown when he was on this podcast or this Zoom, and he talked about how I use all the stages based on my different rounds in my story. And he talked about the hologram. So anytime I was at round 1, that's where I was planted. That's where I created the hologram or the statue, if that's more comfortable for you. I created the statue or the hologram. Boom, round 1. And like he said, I didn't have to say any words, but you know, when I was at that point, at that stage, I was talking about round 1. And then I transitioned over to round 2. And I went from left to right. Why did I do that? We know why I did that. Because most people read from left to right, except for my Arab brothers and sisters, because I believe they go from right to left. But most of us read from left to right. So it was my right to my left, but the audience's left to their right, because that's how most people read, and that's how people were going to be able to follow the story easily. And I never talked about round 1 when I was standing at the position of round 2. And I never talked about round 3 when I was standing at the position of round 1. So I created those statues or those holograms in that particular part or that particular point of the story. So consider doing that. If you have a story with 3 different parts or however many, consider creating those holograms or those statues wherever you're creating those different points in your speech or in your story. And if you noticed, it was a speech contest, but as I was transitioning, I didn't speak. I was moving from round 1 to round 2. I didn't say a word. I didn't say round 2 or round 1. And now I'm walking over to round 2. Hi guys, I'm on my way to round 2. No, I carry the audience with me during that time where I was walking. It's just another technique to keep the audience engaged. I didn't say anything while I was walking over to round 1 or while I was walking over to round 2. It was just another technique, another tactic to keep the audience engaged, because it's like, oh, she's quiet. What's she gonna say next? Like, let's let's move along with her. So round one, or whenever I finished with round one, when I was talking about college, and I said something like, college wasn't for me and I was never going back. Round two. And so I kind of brought the audience with me on that silent journey. And so even if it is a speech contest, but sometimes the silence speaks louder than any words you can say. And I think Mark Brown touched on that as well with the man who had this, I forget who he was talking about, but the man who had the speech where he was talking about the importance of silence. But use your silence. Use your pausing. Pausing is so important. If you go through my speech, every time I asked the question to the audience, I would pause. When was the last time life knocked you down? Pause. Let it simmer. Let them be able to create an answer in their mind so that they can become even more engaged. Because if I would have said, when was the last time life knocked you down? Well, the last time life, and I would have just went on like that, it wouldn't have given the audience enough time to even register the question, let alone let it kind of simmer in their mind. So the power of pauses, the power of silence, the expertise that it takes to use that entire stage, because it's so grand, so grandiose, it's huge. The ability to use that stage, I think those were two things that helped me stand out. As far as the dress code, I chose to go with a navy blue suit. A lot of people think it was black, but it was a really, really, really dark blue. And I went with that dark blue color because I didn't want to distract from my message. Not saying that you can't wear a bright color or some patterns or something like that, but just be mindful of the things that you're wearing on stage, because if you wear something that's very distracting, where do you think the audience eyes are going to go? Like right now, I have this big Nike check on my shirt, which I'm sure some of you have noticed already. I would never wear this on stage, by the way. I was hanging out with my son earlier, but I would never wear this on stage because everybody's going to be staring at this big pink Nike check. So I wanted something that was subtle, but still professional, and a color that brought to the audience's attention that I was serious. Like those dark colors, it gives you a serious kind of business tone. I'm not here to play any games. I'm not here to play games. I'm here to deliver a message. And by me wearing this suit, this blazer, these slacks, and these heels, not stilettos, just nice conservative heels, you know I'm here for business. So that's why I chose that, because I didn't want to be distracting and I wanted to be taken seriously. But like I said, Sherry Sue, she wore the red, and I think the red is royal and is regal. And I know in a lot of Asian countries, the color red is lucky. And so, and she's the number 2 speaker in the world. So when you're thinking about what to wear, just make sure it's not too distracting, because I call myself the ladybug speaker, but I would never wear a shirt with a bunch of ladybugs on it. 1, it's not going to look good on camera, and 2, it's going to be a distraction to people who are trying to figure out, first of all, what is it on there? Is it something alive on there? It's going to take away their attention, and it's going to detract from my speech. So that's why I chose to kind of keep it solid and keep it basic. But like I said, the background was blue. So I didn't know what color the background was going to be. The background was blue. So it kind of, by it being that really, really, how can I describe the blue? Because it was so blue. By it being that ocean blue, my subtle blue, it kind of balanced well with the back color, which was blue. And I think for most of the years it's been blue, but I had no idea. But if I were to give any advice, I would say stick to basic colors, maybe something neutral, a nice suit. Ladies, for some reason, and forgive me for saying this, but for some reason they love to see us in heels. I don't know why. So if you're giving a speech, consider wearing heels. It's just more feminine, because you never know who's judging you. And it's, like I said, it's always the little things. It's the smallest things that have the greatest effect, because trust me, I wanted to wear flats because I was doing all the boxing and I was doing all the movement. I'm like, heels? No way, my feet are going to be so sore after this. But somebody said if you wear heels, the men just expecting women to wear heels. So I said, you know what, fine, I'll wear the heels. And as far as props, somebody told me a long time ago that props equals points. Props equal points. Because when I was first practicing my speech, I didn't have a prop. I was just doing the boxing thing, and I was talking about my story and my messages, and I really felt like that was enough. But somebody who I really respected, one of my district leaders, she said, no, you need a prop. Props equal points. And so at the very last minute, maybe the night before the contest, I decided to go ahead and add that towel in there, because boxing, you throw in a towel, that means you give up, you quit. And I wanted to do something that everybody would be able to see, even if they were way in the back. So what's better than a white towel? A white towel is something that I can whip out easily. Everybody will be able to see it. I can wave it around a little bit and then toss it down without having to worry about tripping over it later on. And so if you have a speech where you can use a prop, I would definitely recommend it. It just shows so much polish and preparation when you can give this powerful speech, and you can give this dynamic speech and this moving speech, and then you throw a prop in there. Like, people know that, okay, wow, she put some time into it. She put some thought into it, and she used it effectively. She used it at the right time. So, or he, I'm sorry, I don't want to leave out any men who may be in the house, but he or she used it very, very properly, and he or she, we can tell that he or she practiced with that prop. So if you have a prop that you are wanting to use, I definitely encourage it. But just know that your time is limited, and you don't want to use too many props. Because there was one guy in the speech contest, and forgive me, I forgot his name, but he used like several. And it just got to the point where it was like, okay, kind of focused on the props and not the speaking. So make them intentional. Whatever your message is, make the prop match and make it intentional with your message. Don't just try to throw it in there just to say you have one. Make sure that you have a purpose and you have a timing for that prop. But I definitely recommend that you use one, even if it's just something small. I forget his name. J.A. Ganache, I believe. Oh, and forgive me if I butchered his name, but I know it's J.A. I believe it's Ganache. But he used did I say that right?
But I know who you're talking about. Keep going.
Yes, him, I forgot, but I know it's J.A. Last name starts with a G. Mm-hmm. He used a beautiful butterfly at the end of his speech, and I will never forget it, because it was like a butterfly, but it was like on a prop stick, and it was just fluttering away at the end of his speech. It was beautiful, but it wasn't like a 3-foot butterfly, and it didn't make noise. It was just perfect. Mm-hmm. So go over your props with people you trust, your district leaders, your mentors, your coaches, your club leaders, and make sure it's not too over the top. But I definitely recommend using a prop. And another thing that I wanted to add was, some people ask me, I'll talk about two things and then I'll turn it back over to you guys. But one was the animation or the dramatics. And the other one was, these are questions that I get very often. Do I have to be dramatic? And I think maybe about humor, but I'll start with the dramatics. The most positive and negative feedback that I've gotten from the still standing speech is that it was too dramatic. It was too theatrical. And why is she moving all over the place? She's just doing too much. Well, for those of you who are wondering about that, in case you can tell from this time with us together, like, I like to move. I'm energetic. My son is 6 years old. I can't be boring. That's a part of who I am. That is who I am. I am the mover. I am Mrs. Energetic. I am Mrs. Animation. And plus, I was a teacher. I taught high school students, 10th and 11th graders. I can't stand up there like a tree with no wind. They'll get bored and go to sleep. So this is a part of who I am. I like to move. I like to use my body to help me portray a message. However, if that is not you, then don't do that. Don't do that. You don't have to be over the top. You don't have to go out there with your dukes up like I did. You don't have to do the huffing and puffing when I was talking about how I kept taking hit after hit. You don't have to be extra. Because if it feels extra, then it probably is. I did those things because I was being exactly who I am. So if those things that I did don't feel natural to you, then don't do it. Do you have to sing at the end like I did or like Mark Brown did? Absolutely not. I like to sing. Am I the best singer? Maybe not. But personally, I just like to sing. So you really have to do what feels natural to you. You really have to be you. Nobody wants to see another Ramona Smith. Nobody wants to see another Mark Brown or Darren LaCroix or Jim Key or Darren Tay or Dananjaya. Nobody wants to see another duplicate. We want to see you. What uniqueness do you have to bring to the table? What do you offer that we've never seen before? That's what we want to see. Now, you can throw in elements of the previous world champions. However, we want to see something completely different. We want to see something that's going to blow us away. I'll never forget, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget Muhammad Katani when he lit up that cigarette. Well, we thought he was going to light up that cigarette on stage. Like, I'll never forget when Mark Brown sang that part of Beauty and the Beast. I will never forget those things. So what are you going to bring to that stage that is unforgettable? What is going to be your phrase that pays, that people are going to be saying for years and years to come? We're still saying, I see something. We're still saying, speak, LaShonda Rondos. We're still saying, ouch, Darren LaCroix. People are going to continue to say, I'm still standing, Ramona Smith. But what are you going to tell us that we're going to be able to hold on to when we're practicing for our speeches? Or even when we're facing a hard time? When someone's facing a hard time right now, they can say, you know what? Ramona dropped out of college 4 times. So yes, I may have failed this test or failed this quiz or failed this relationship, but guess what? I'm still standing. What are you going to bring to us that's going to help us get through our lives? It's bigger than a contest. It's bigger than a speech. You're touching the hearts of hundreds and thousands of people. So please be yourself. You have something inside of you that we need. You have a gift. And if you're trying to emulate past champions, you're going to take away from the natural gift that you've been given. And if you don't give us that gift, is it really a gift if you don't give it? So many of us, we study this. We've looked at the videos, we've hired coaches and mentors, we've read books, we've practiced. So you know the tips and the tricks, you know the secrets. But my number one advice is to genuinely be yourself. And I feel like if you can genuinely and authentically be yourself and let your light shine through, that's what's going to take you to the next level. I think that's all I have to say.
Well, there's one more thing you were going to share, which was on humor. You mentioned that you get a lot of questions about humor.
Okay.
Yes, we will. That's no worries.
Okay, so the humor.
Mm-hmm.
I think humor is an important element, but I don't think humor should be forced. Mm-hmm. Because there were some moments in my speech where I didn't even expect the audience to laugh. And they laughed. Now, mm-hmm. The intentional humor was when I said we were married for 8 long, beautiful, amazing months. Mm-hmm. I knew that was going to be funny, so I put that in there. But right. People even laughed when I talked about how I made it to the area level, the division, then the district. I was on the roll. I was on fire. I lost. People laughed there. But I didn't expect them to laugh there. So I feel like humor is an important element that you should incorporate, but I don't think it should be forced. Like, don't force jokes in your speech. Don't try to, you're not a stand-up comedian. So if there's a moment where you feel like it's the right time for laughter, go ahead, drop it in there. But I don't think you should force jokes into your speech because it won't feel genuine. It won't feel authentic. Because I've seen speakers who try to force jokes in there and they don't get any laughs. But I've also seen speakers who are telling us a funny story and they don't even know that they're going to get laughs, and then we crack up. So if you think it's genuinely something funny, like every time you give this speech, every time you practice it, people laugh, fine, throw it in there. That's where the feedback and evaluations come from. But if you're just trying to throw jokes in there like you're a comedian, it may not go over too well with the audience. But the audience does want to laugh. We want to laugh. We want to have a good time. But at the same time, we know that you're not a stand-up comedian.
And, I'm glad that you share that, because that is something where we often feel pressure, like how do we get an audience to respond? We're speaking and we need some form of audience engagement. We want to make sure it happens at the beginning. And very often we think it has to be humor. So it's always good to be reminded, to your point, that what is important is this element of being able to just let it naturally happen and tell your story.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, we know what's funny, especially if we interact with different people, and if we've told this speech before, or we just have speeches where people have laughed, we usually know what's funny and what's not. You usually know what's going to get a laugh and what's not.
Yeah.
So you have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And like you said, don't put too much pressure on yourself, because if you've given speeches before and you know that, oh, wow, people laugh when I do this, or people laugh when I say that, or you laugh when you say it, then most likely it's going to be funny.
Well, I want to say to everybody, please quickly post your comments.
I'll settle back in.
All righty. Or what it is you want to share with your audience. So what techniques did you use to help you, at least in the beginning, remember what it is you were going to share?
You mean remember the whole speech in general?
At least at the beginning, I guess, to get you started. And Mirel, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I know that this is your question, so if you want to elaborate a little bit more on it, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah.
How did I remember the whole speech? Personally, repetition. I will, and I like to write it out. I don't like to look at my cell phone or look at my laptop screen. I like to actually handwrite it out with pencil and paper or pen and paper. And I'll hold it and I will pace the floor and I will continue to read it over and over and over and over again until I start to memorize certain parts. And then after I keep reading it out loud over and over and pacing the floor, I will start to put the movements with the words, and that helps me remember it. I start to choreograph the speech. And so once I start to choreograph the speech, like when I first came out and I said, sometimes life will feel like a fight. By me moving, it helped me remember what I was supposed to say. Because once I kept doing it, my body would move. And if my body is doing this, then my mind is like, okay, you're supposed to say life will sometimes feel like a fight. Or even as I was practicing, my body would just do this, even if I didn't have the words. And by me moving like this, it was like, oh, life will sometimes feel like a fight. And of course, the punches, jabs, and hooks, that the choreography, it helps me memorize it. So making sure I match the movements to what I'm saying, it helps me memorize it. But repetition, of course, just saying it over and over and over and over again.
And I think that actually answered, hopefully, quite a few of the questions, because I know Finley as well asked something very similar in terms of the preparation and how you rehearse the speech. And I think that that's something very important for people to understand, that you have to just keep, spending time and letting it marinate with what you're doing as you practice. And then I also got a question from Arnold George, who's asking about the psychological preparation for competing. So like psychologically, what did you tell yourself? Was there specific mantras that you had, maybe even techniques backstage as you got prepared to do the final presentations? How did you psychologically prepare yourself?
Well, as I mentioned before, this time around, I was really in it to just learn, grow, and have fun. So I told myself that I already know that I'm a great speaker. I already know that this is my passion. And whether I get the trophy or not, I already know that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I told myself to not get so wrapped up in whether I got first place or any place at all, and just understand that this is what I love to do. So I'm able to enjoy it with 2,000 other people. So that's what I told myself initially. Just go in there and do what you do. Do what you do best. Do what you love. So that's what I told myself before. I said, no matter what happens, you already know that this is in your heart. So if this is not the lane or the path or the platform that's going to boost you to the next level, it'll be something else. So that's what I told myself initially. And then as I was preparing, I just told myself, like, listen, no, we don't care about the trophy. No, we don't care about the win, but this is our craft. This is our art. This is this is our passion. So we're not going to go in half stepping. We're not going to go in halfway prepared. We're going to go in knowing that I'm going to leave everything on this stage. Everything I have, everything I prepare for, everything I practice, I'm going to make sure I've prepared so much that when I get off that stage, I don't have any regrets.
Right.
I don't regret anything because I know that I practiced. I know that I got my feedback. I know that I've taken the time out to actually invest in this speech. And so once I get on that stage, this is I'm giving you my all. And I think Mark Brown talked about that too. He said something like, my God and my people deserve the best, or something like that. Something to that. So it was very similar to that. I'm not going to go on the stage half-stepping. This is the World Championship of Public Speaking. I'm not going to go out there and give these people anything less than my absolute best. And I'm not going to go out there and give myself anything less than my absolute best. So I feel like if you have that mentality and you go out there knowing that you've prepared 110%, then that's all the psychological work you need to do.
And I love some of the other questions, because our club in Guyana, I know there's some folks who are wondering about nervousness, and is that something that you deal with, or because I know this is something that you're following as your passion, but in your journey, what was there any points of things that you did to help you with any onset of nerves?
Well, the first club president I ever had, her name is Amy Ayano. She told me that it's fine to have butterflies. It's okay. It's natural. We all get them. But if you make those butterflies fly in formation, you'll be just fine. So whenever I get butterflies, I just tell them to, like, okay, get yourself in order. Get yourself in line it up, get in formation. And then when I perform, bam, I'll let you all out. So it's basically like you control the nervousness. It's all up here. It's all mental. So when you feel yourself getting nervous, talk to yourself. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy and out of this world, but talk to yourself. Talk yourself down. I don't really have any specific mantras, or I don't have any specific rituals that I do before I get on stage. But if I do feel butterflies, I know that it's a good thing, because I know that it's still like the spark is still there, like I'm married to the speaking. And I don't know if anybody's been married for a long time, but if you still get that spark with your partner, then you know that was the one. So I think the nervousness is a great thing, but you have to talk yourself down from that. And if you do find some meditation or a prayer or a chant, I think I can, I know I can, I know I will, then fine, do that. I don't have anything in particular. I just go out there and give my best.
And you talked about the fact that you got a lot of great advice, and obviously some of the questions then have to do with whether there were specific people that you got feedback from, or if you worked with a coach.
I did not work with a coach. I reached out to some of the programs. They get it now, but being on the other side as, a member of Toastmasters, it was like, oh, nobody reached out to me when I needed them, but they're busy. So the one person who did reach out to me, who was a previous world champion, he wanted to charge me a fee. And at that point, I didn't have the extra funds to pay him $400 or $500. And so I said, you know what? No, it's okay. So I didn't work with a coach. I watched a lot of the previous world championship videos. I watched a lot of the previous videos, and that helped. And the biggest push for me as far as mentorship and advice and feedback, it came from my district leaders, from my district director, from my program quality director, and from our district PR person. All three of us were in the hotel room, and they were just helping me piece by piece go over my speech. And I spent a lot of time in the hotel room with them, and we just kept going over it. And they would tell me, no, don't say it like this, say it like that, or no, don't do this, do that. So it came from my district leaders, and I'm so thankful for them.
Yeah, and that's fantastic to hear. That shows kind of the investment in it. So for Toastmasters, we got to think of how we support each other. You know, for national champions, your clubs, you know, invest in your champions and make sure that you go out there and support your champions, because to Ramona's point, you may not always have somebody who's been there to guide you through that process. You may not always have that coach, but there's great strength in the evaluation that we do as Toastmasters to support. So that's fantastic to hear. Now there's a question on the hologram. Listen, I'm telling you, I know from now on we will hear that term.
You know what? Give me 1 second. Let me readjust this for 1 second. Hold on.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks everybody for the questions so far. Keep them coming. I'm trying to make sure I get them all, and your comments. So keep them coming privately. Some of you are sending them to the chat to everybody, and that's perfect. Either way, we'll try to handle it. Between myself and our program quality director, Fabiola, we'll make sure that we get them going. The whole idea of the creation of it. So, you know, determining this is where your position is going to be on the stage for a specific part of your messaging.
I first learned about the hologram from a guy named Larry Sapansky in Cleveland, Ohio. I had never heard of anything like that before in my life. I didn't understand it, and I had never done it before. And now he told me about the hologram in 2015 after I lost at the district level. And I never understood the importance of it until I started to implement it in this last speech. That's important just because you're keeping the audience in mind. And that's what it's all about. It's what's most beneficial and what's most impactful and what's most effective for the audience. It's easy for me as someone in the audience to keep up with your message and your points. You're planted somewhere on stage, and each different point is it's just, I haven't done the studies. I don't have a PhD in it. It's just something that sticks with people all over the world, especially brothers and sisters who don't speak English as a first language. I feel like personally, if I don't speak English as a first language, but she says, dog died here, married wife here, okay, left home here, I can keep up. It's just easier for me to follow than you talking to me from the same position. And I'm trying to, in my mind, I'm trying to keep up with what you're saying, but I'm trying to visualize the images that you're saying. And what if you said a word that I didn't understand? Or what if you said a word in a way where you meant it a certain way, but I didn't understand it? Or what if you have an accent? What if you have an accent? What if I speak Arabic as a first language and you speak Japanese and you said, you meant to say ketchup, but you said ketchup. And I'm saying, ketchup? What is she trying to catch up with? She was talking about a hot dog. But if every time you talk about hot dogs, you're there and you move over to something different here and something different there, it's just so much easier for the audience to keep track of your different points when you create that statue or a hologram using those same points in the same area of the stage. I don't know the stats behind it. I didn't get a degree in it, but it's just something about it that helps.
And you know, that's interesting that you said the fact that, especially for our non-English speakers, and I think that's interesting because in the District 81, when we look at all of our speakers, we have French speakers, Spanish speakers, the English speakers, the Dutch speakers. All of us are competing. And so I think this is actually quite interesting for us to contemplate, because again, we are already thinking about making sure our message is clear as we speak so that everybody understands our terms and references, but also it's clear even in how we're purposeful in using the stage. And we've had quite a few questions asking you how you determine your speeches or your content. How do you look at your material or choosing your topic?
I always go with personal experiences. Anything that's happened to me that I feel like made me stronger or made me a better person, something I learned from, something that genuinely changed my life, I'll share it, because I know that by it having a strong impact on me, when I deliver it, it's truthful, it's honest. And people will be able to feel that and relate to it. It's all about relating and making that connection. And so I always use personal life experiences, but that's just me personally. If you don't, because somebody actually said, well, that's the other point that I wanted to talk about earlier. I don't have a devastating story, and I didn't have a bad life, and I didn't fail at anything. So how do I have a story? I said, use your successes as a story. Use your successes as a story. Talk about the time where you went for a job promotion and you actually got it, or talk about the time when woman of your dreams and you guys hit it off and you got married and you've been married for 35 years. Everybody loves a great story about triumph and success. You don't have to have a horrible life and a bunch of failures and your life was so terrible. Great. That's beautiful. Talk to us about your successes. Or if there's somebody else in your life who has experienced some ups and downs, a best friend, a grandmother, a college mate, use their story.
Yes. And, I like how you say that, because you're right. We think it's just the negative. We never think that the successes are something fantastic to share as well. And then, we know that you have to do several speeches. Well, you're doing several levels of competition. And the big question is always, deciding on, which should you do the same speech throughout, from your club, your area, district even. Maybe for some people who end up competing very close, it's always this question of, should I still use the same speech? What was it that you found for yourself?
I used the same speech from the club level through the semifinals.
Right.
You have to do a completely different speech for the finals, but for all, 5 club, area, division, district semifinals, for all 5 of those levels, I used the same speech, but I used the same speech because it had the same impact on every single audience. It was heartfelt. It had humor. People could relate to it. And it left a mark on people. That's why I use the same speech over and over and over. But if I were to use it at the club level and got a certain reaction, and then used it at the area level but didn't quite get the same reaction, maybe I would have switched it. But the same speech that I gave at the club level, even though it was the same speech, it wasn't the same speech when I gave it at the semifinals level, because I tweaked it, I changed it, I edited it, I got feedback from different people, and I switched words and I switched motions, and so it was the same speech, but it evolves at each different stage. So I don't think there's anything wrong with using the same speech, but I don't feel like there's anything wrong with using a different speech.
Yeah. And then, the big question, especially when you go into semifinals and, you also have to prep for the possibility of finals, is like, how do you decide which of those to do?
Well, you can't do the same one. So whatever you did for semifinals, you won't be able to do it in the final speech. But for me, I already had a speech prepared for the finals once I won a district level, because that's what they tell us. Once you win at the district level, that's when you start preparing for the finals. So I had a final speech, and I think it was called If I Knew Then What I Know Now, or something like that. And I talked about how when I was 25, I thought I knew it all and blah, blah, blah. But I chose to switch that speech after I delivered my semifinal speech because I was gauging the audience. And this particular audience, they like humor. They liked they were fine with laughing. They were a little on the edge. And so I said, well, this is a representation of the group that's going to be there at the finals. Let me switch it up. Let me switch it up. So I chose to switch it up based on that I got from the audience. But you really just, you have to follow your heart. You have to follow your heart. If your heart is leading you to deliver a specific message, or if your heart is telling you wants to hear this particular speech, then do that. It's really not, I don't think it's an art. Personally, I don't feel like it's an art or a science to what you want to deliver. You just really have to figure out what's going to be the best version of you. Which speech is going to let you shine.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to wrap it up with two very quick questions, and they're fun questions. Have you ever gone boxing before?
Never.
Hi. All right.
I actually threw an uppercut and I called it a hook. And a professional boxer at one of the seminars I did, he corrected me. So I said punches, jabs, and hooks when I should have said hooks. So my apologies, professional athletes.
And then the last one was in terms of when you hit the speaking at the semis into the finals, were you still teaching, or were you doing some professional speaking at that point as well?
Well, I've always tried to do a little professional speaking. Since 2010, I've been trying to do a little speaking here and there, but no, I was still teaching. I just resigned from teaching in December because now I don't have to.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ramona. And you shared a lot of great information, and the feedback in the chat has been fantastic too. People have said they loved your tips and they loved your winning presentation. They were even asking about your semi-final speech, what that was like. It's generated a lot of interest. But for me, I really also love the fact that you wrap this all up nicely by talking about the fact that we need to learn, grow, and have fun. That it's important for us to be in the moment. It's not about a trophy or winning an award. It's about being able to create a connection with your story and sharing your story. It's much bigger than that. And you actually provided even more food for thought, because what happens when you get the championship? Are we really prepared for what that requires? And I know I see for you how busy it is, just, with you trying to handle all of your responsibilities. So for us, we were really, really happy that you could spend this time. Just a reminder that we will have our survey, so people look out for that. Fabiola is going to send it. But before I wrap up our session, we're doing really well on time, so we should be finished soon. I have our district director, Anita, who's been listening in. And Anita, if you could please, help us.
I have here.
There we go. Welcome, Anita.
Hello, good evening, District 81. Hello, Ramona.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Good.
So I feel like we were treated to royalty here tonight. Everything that you said confirmed what a lot of the other speakers said. And I just want to summarize it. I hope that I'm summarizing it accurately. Over the course of the past few months, I've become very good friends with Aaron Beverly, who was the second place winner in the 2016 contest. And I remember his speech. He said, just because you say more doesn't mean that people will remember it. And so where you said that when you're going to do something or say something, make it purposeful, I think that is the most important takeaway for speakers, that it must add value. Because anything that isn't adding from value is a distraction. Adding to value is a distraction. And just about a week ago, he started a discussion on Facebook about whether winning would be represented by the trophy. And I remember commenting that if a trophy was the only proof that you were a winner, then this world would be chock full of losers. And we know that that is not true.
Right.
A winner is when you have overcome your personal limitations and really faced your fears, kind of like what your message was about. And so everybody becomes a winner the day they decide to step on that stage and even be willing to be vulnerable and be judged in a way. I love the fact that you said you don't have to always be busy. There is beauty in the pause and in silence, because you have to allow people to digest and to process and to relate. That's where that connection is established. I love the fact that you said you considered your audience. What would they like to hear? What could they relate to? Like the white flag. Everybody knows, regardless of whether you're from Africa, from Asia, from North America, South America, everybody understands what the white flag means. It's a universal symbol. I love the fact that you understood the rules, you knew what the stakes were, you researched and you were prepared. You understood what impact colors could have, their style of outfit, your props, the heels, and that is so important. Preparation is important. I love when you said that you don't have to do it all. You can learn from others' successes and you can learn from failures. And to have a great speech, you don't have to have the greatest strategy. Inspiration doesn't have to come from being pulled out of the doom and gloom of life. Inspiration can just be how your positive attitude has allowed you to have successes in life, even when challenges came. Because nobody's life is free of challenges, despite what they tell you. Perhaps it doesn't impact them as much because they're positive. And I think the most important thing that all of the champions have imparted onto us is be authentic. You can only be yourself. People will spot a fake and a phony a mile away. And if you do your personal best, and you have no regrets, then you're a winner already. So I believe that you really gave us powerful words. And with most of our clubs now putting on their speech contests, I think it will force people to tweak their speeches a little bit, make it a little more personal. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Ramona wasn't afraid, and look where it got her. So thank you so much, Ramona, for sharing your experience with us and your expertise as well. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Really, again, for those of you who want some background, and Ramona, so you know, last year, after the semifinals competition, Fabiola, Anita, and I, along with some other Toastmasters who are also here on the session, Sashoy, Ingrid from the Cayman Islands, we talked about the fact that this is important for us at District 81 to be able to have an opportunity for Toastmasters to reach out to you all as world champions and people who've gone on the world stage and learn about your experience and how that could also help us. Again, the motivation even beyond seeing you on stage. So I really want to say thanks again to Anita, to our Program Quality Director, Fabiola, to Pierre, our PR Manager who's on. And we have just let him, he's going to say a little bit too, our Region 8 Advisor, Distinguished Toastmaster Roy, who also wants to just share a Roy, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much for extending this invitation to me. And Ramona, thank you very much. I think the information you shared here tonight is very valuable to every person that not even wanting to compete, but just wanting to have fun. This Toastmasters program, and you demonstrated very well how effective and impactful it can be if we understand what it is that we want to do. And all of us have a purpose, all of us have a passion, but it's how we sell that purpose and bring that passion to fruition is what's going to make a difference. The points you shared here tonight, and the thing I took away based on what everybody said there, but the one other thing is you have to know your ego and you have to understand humility. And if you continue to have that egotistic behavior, it's never going to get you anywhere. So thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot. And thank you, District 81.
Thank you so much, DTM Roy. There we go. We can see you and wave to you. Thank you so much. Fabiola, I just want to confirm, I think based on our poll, we may have had about 11 countries, territories represented tonight. We had viewing parties from clubs such as Cacique in Guyana. And let me know if there was anything else from the poll. But a reminder, everybody, the survey is coming out, so please make sure you complete it. And also, for those of you who are wondering where the video recordings are going to be, they are going to be on our district website, so please make sure to check it out. Our PR manager, Pierre, is going to be uploading this, and once we've edited and Ramona has reviewed, we will put this one up. But the other 2 sessions should be up, so please keep checking our district website. For everybody who is here, thank you so much. Fabiola, thank you again. I don't know if there's any last requirement that you need from our participants.
We are good. I put the link to the website, and I also want to thank Annick for putting this up. She asked me, is there something we can do? I said, yes. And truly, all this information with these 3 sessions really help each one of the prospect competitors for this year to prepare themselves well, and again, be able to show what the Caribbean can do. And thank you so much, Annick, for putting this together, and it has been great. So you're blessed.
Thank you, Fabiola, and you're my co-conspirator, so much appreciation. Ramona, thank you very much for being here this evening, and we wish you safe travels, and we will continue to track your success as you travel the world and share your message. We really enjoyed having you here. I know all
We
of
love
the
you, Ramona.
Toastmasters. Oh, see, everybody's waving. Tell her bye.
We love you, Ramona.
Oh gosh. So thank you, everyone. The time is, well, it's 4 minutes to our closing hour. And I think we did really good for a finale. We have no more sessions, but I'm sure the district leadership will be sharing any future sessions coming up. And a reminder to get yourselves all ready for competition, because Bonaire is calling in May. And I know that everybody's looking forward to seeing each other. It has been a fantastic opportunity to host all of you. Thank you for being here. And for everybody, I see you ladies in Aruba. For everybody, have a gorgeous evening, and you take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.